Welcome back to Trading 360 and our 2024 special year-end coverage. I'm Nicole Petallides. It's time for the big three. 3 stocks, 3 charts, 3 trades. Kevin Green will take us through the charts. Here to take us through the trades, Scott Bauer, CEO, Prosper Trading Academy. Good to see you both. What a great year we have had. Scott, you want to give us a look back thought?
Yeah, the look back is I don't think anybody expected, this big of a gain, even with what's happened over the last several days. And, today, markets, I'm looking up here right now, S&P's just rallied a little bit. But overall, this has been a spectacular year. Now, is that going to be, a little bit of a question mark going into next year? Maybe, but I think things are still overall pretty decent, Nicole.
Right, understood. And how are you feeling about the year ahead for 2025?
Yeah, a little bit more cautious at this point, I think, just because the narrative has changed so quickly on rates and what the Fed might do. Economically, though, I think we're sitting okay. I don't think we're sitting great. I think we're sitting okay. The consumer is still in a pretty good spot. I mean, we've all been waiting for that part to kind of fall off, and it hasn't yet. So if we look forward there, the consumer is pretty good. And, I think we're going to have a pretty decent year. I'm not saying that the S&Ps are going to be up 20+% again, but I think we're going to have a pretty decent year.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about AMD. We think about AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, all those names. Why is AMD the name that points out to you, which obviously was a loser for 2024 in a big way, really paled in comparison to some of the other names in the group?
Absolutely, and it's been the one that's kind of been tossed aside, and that's part of the reason I like it. And there has been some pretty positive news lately with their relationship with NVIDIA, and it may take NVIDIA to get AMD going again. But just given the fact that it's really fighting to hold those 52-week lows as we're seeing here, and it's putting in a lot of volume down here, I think the upside is way better than the downside is for the entire year. I'm looking at a little bit shorter term trade, so literally just starting off the new year. So what I want to do is I'm going to sell it. It's the January 3rd expiration, so literally 2 days into the new year, 2 trading days into the new year. I'm going to sell the 125, 120 put spread, and I can get $3 to do that. I can collect $3. My break even in a couple weeks from now is 122. Now, that doesn't, give you the whole story for the year, though I am bullish in AMD for the year. But I think with the option volatility, the premium we're seeing now overall, that makes this a really, really a good trade that I want to look at because I'm able to collect so much premium.
Yeah, exciting. Definitely very exciting. Kevin Green, let's take a look at some of the charts and some of your thoughts.
Well, when you're looking at the risk-reward structure from the price action here, you can make a case that Scott, rightfully so, may be bullish on this name. We saw this immediate run up to the upside at the beginning of the year, touching $227.30, and that's when we started to see it fade. But it's been fading in a way that has been, let's say, orderly for the most part. We saw first the 180 level kind of fail. We consolidated in this bear flag pattern, meaning that we have a bearish trend, but we do see maybe some green shoots. And then we came back, retested the 180 level again, and then flushed below the 200-day moving average. And now that has been an area of resistance for the stock. Now, what I do have highlighted here is around that $119, $120 level, or that range, is where we did see buyers actually step in earlier this year, right around August 5th of this year. So if you're kind of looking at the technicals, you wanted to take a shot to the upside here, the risk reward based on the past price action of the stock does kind of point a little bit more to the upside. Now, you do have the RSI that is still in a downtrend, making lower highs as well as lower lows, and it is in the oversold territory. And we do have the MACD, which is still in a bearish formation with the 12 EMA below the 26 EMA. Overall, we're still seeing some bearish signs, but once again, when you're kind of looking at the past price action, the risk reward setup to the upside here probably puts this in Scott's favor for now.
I see. So, hey, that's not a bad summation there, Scott. I think you liked that, right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that affirmation. And, with any position I'm going to put on, even if it goes against me, I'm always going to have my risk completely limited, which is why I would be trading a spread here. So I can collect 3. All I can lose is 2 on this particular trade.
Yeah. All right. Up next is Boeing. Obviously, the name that was plagued with so many tough, terrible headlines, but really gave it a go towards the end of the year, right? And what was interesting too, the shares were starting to trade higher. The company reportedly restarted the 767 and the 777 production, 3 sevens. And on the Dow, it was a best performer for December. Some of your thoughts on where Boeing could be headed after being down, 30% in a year or so?
We've all been waiting for the news flow to stop in Boeing, and that news flow has been decidedly negative. And it's not just this year; it's been for the last several years. And what we've seen, Nicole, over the last couple of months, and maybe that's why we're seeing that outperformance in December, is that news flow has stopped for now. So if Boeing can kind of get out of its own way, and there's still some concerns about sales, but things are ramping back up again from a technical perspective here. Boy, there's a lot of room to the upside without a lot of resistance. So I really like Boeing for all of 2025. Again, things can change real quickly if, God forbid, something happens there, an exogenous event or something. But I really like Boeing, and in fact, I'm very aggressive with a position for early on in the year. So I'm buying a call spread, pretty aggressive call spread. It's the January expiration 180, 195 call spread, somewhere between $3 and $3.50. And 190 is probably the next stop on the upside for Boeing. And if it clears through there, boy, I could see 205, 210 by the end of January.
That would be great. I mean, if they can continue to get orders too, right around the end of December, we saw that Pegasus Airlines ordered up to 200 Boeing 737, 710 planes. If they can continue to get orders like that, that would be good news too. Let's take a look, Kevin, at the charts, please.
Well, yes, we did see a fundamental breakdown for Boeing pretty much all year, and the selling just really did not stop because of the news flow here, Nicole. And this one was, once again, kind of orderly when you're looking at the sell-off. We started off right around the highs of around $260, and then we faded ever since. And we utilized that 20-period moving average as an area of resistance pretty much throughout the year. We had the initial flush to the downside, and then a consolidation between May and around July of this year, until we saw a further breakdown. But now we actually have flipped this channel line here that we've seen on the bearish side that has now turned into support. We also have broken above the 20-period moving average, which was an area of resistance, now turning into an area of support. We broke through the 200-day moving average, a very key technical indicator for a lot of traders out there. Now we're going to flip that from resistance to support. The first level that is going to be a little bit of a headwind, though, is really where it's trading at right now, $180. And Scott's right. After we break through that, if we are able to, 190 is going to be the next area of resistance, and then you actually can see up to potentially 220 on this chart. You have the RSI continuing to move to the upside, making higher highs, higher lows. MACD has also crossed back in late November, 12 EMA above the 26 EMA, above that zero line. But here's actually the nail in the coffin, and I know that Scott's really, really smart. If you actually look at the weekly chart and you zoom out a little bit, there's actually a trend line that has been in place since COVID-19. Those COVID lows are actually going to be very key. And if you kind of look at the stock, it has been bottoming on that trend line. And recently, back once again in November, early in November, we touched that trend line again. And now we are seeing a little bit of a bounce higher. 194 is the 200-week moving average. That also is going to be an area of resistance. But you can make the case that structurally and based on past performance, maybe a near-term bottom has been put in for the stock, and the risk reward, once again, could be to the upside.
I think you're both really smart. I'm glad you even brought that up, Kevin. So that's good. Scott, final thought here on Boeing.
Yeah, like Kevin said, both from a technical and a fundamental standpoint here, there's a lot to like about the stock here. Obviously, that overhang of all that negative news we've received over the last couple of years, that's always a risk. There's no question about it, but there's a lot to like about the potential for an upside move here.
So the next name up is Ulta Beauty, which had a run up, from after November. Then it started to turn and give it a go in December. And positive comments from UBS and Morgan Stanley and Loop Capital, many buy ratings, and even a 490 target from UBS, which is a very nice one for Ulta. Scott, where do you think it could be headed in 2025?
There are two retail stocks to me that stand out that are just must-haves. Costco is one of them. Ulta is the other one. I think it is absolutely best in class and is positioned so well to really come out of this holiday season, this Christmas shopping season, as one of the big winners. So we did see that big pop a little while ago on earnings, and it's been pretty sideways since then, which I really like, meaning that, the market is comfortable where it's at. It's putting in a lot of volume, maybe a new base for that next move higher. So in this one, I think coming out of the holiday season here, it's going to be gangbusters. I'm giving this trade a little bit more time, so I'm going out to February instead of January on this one, and I'm buying the 450, 470 call spreads, $20 wide, trying to get that for about $5 or so. And I really think that again, this is a standout in the retail space. And I always like to be long or hold, best in class in a particular sector. I really believe Ulta is one of those stocks.
Right, understood. Kevin, I'll give you a word here.
Yeah, there's more bad or good than bad on this chart here, Nicole, but I would actually watch out here a little bit. We started off the year very strong when it came to Ulta. They were opening up really, new stores, and there was a lot of enthusiasm for this name, but we did see a very quick and swift breakdown in the stock, so much so that we saw this gap between $500 all the way down to $468, and we never came back and tried to retest it over that week or 2 week period. We continue to flush to the downside, utilizing the 200 or the 20-day moving average in blue as an area of resistance. Then basically between July and around December, we actually had this wedge type of pattern. We made higher lows, but we were making lower highs. And then we saw this breakout to the upside. Now, here's the bullish case. We broke above the 200 period moving average. That's obviously bullish. We could come back, retest it, find some buyers, and break out higher. We're also going to see a 20 period moving average crossing above the 200 period moving average. Once again, another bullish signal. But the RSI is making lower lows as well as lower highs for right now, since the highs that we have just recently seen. And the MACD does appear that it wants to cross. And on this chart, if you look at all of the bear crosses for that MACD, the 12 EMA below the 26 EMA, it has coincided with pullbacks in the stock. That's the bearish take when you're looking at those oscillators. The bullish take is those simple moving averages and the breakout above the 200-day. Cautiously optimistic. Maybe we fill that gap, but this one still has some work to do to look a little bit more constructive to the buy side.
All right. Thank you, Kevin, for all those charts and thoughts. Scott will give you the last word today on the big three.
Well, I'm glad Kevin kind of agreed with me on all three of them, at least maybe 2.5 out of the three. But again, I think, what we've seen over the last couple of days or so, maybe more severe than we thought. That does not derail what has happened in 2024. In my opinion, 2025 is still very optimistic. And listen, Nicole, since we hit the air just a few minutes ago, the S&Ps are up 30 points since we started this discussion. So maybe Kevin and I should stay on a little longer for the viewers here.
Yeah, look, they say volatility could really be the early part of 2025, and that shows you the swings and a trader loves swings. That's how they make their money, right? Scott Bauer, Prosper Trading Academy, Kevin Green, thank you both for the big three. Appreciate it. Coming up next, we're going to spotlight NVIDIA and the big round.